Invader Guy 78 Presents. The hardest videos that go hard, not soft 78. 13.837.
Hello everybody, braindead here, back at it again with another hard build to present you with. This build today is going to be Slam Dunk, which you might have seen me stream an example of in another video. So what is this build? Why do I call it Slam Dunk? Well, it's because it's a lot of slamming is involved with the spark plug, and some dunking with the ball, because this is built around the ball and fist over matter. You can imagine fist over matter doing like a slamming motion, like a dunking motion more so. So, slam dunk. And how do we get it to work? Well, let's move on to the skill tree. Now for the meat and potatoes of this build is the skill tree. We're leaning heavy on purple and some blue and red for reasons that I will state. And let's talk about the individual skills. You might notice blue tree, a lack of avatar, and for an action skill build you would also expect more do harm. Reason being is, for avatar we had to skip out on blue tree for a little bit of survivability, because ball without survivability is just very hard to use, so I decided to sack remnant and avatar. Remnant is also something we don't really need, because our action skills are capable of bossing, more than capable, they're doing a lot of damage. So all you really need is just lay bare, and both the ball and fist over matter can cover a lot of area. Ascendant for the expedite, and also you might notice 3 transcend. And that is because this build still operates as a gun build. It has enough of red tree and some other boosts here to still competently use a gun. And alacrity because of that. Now you might notice also only 3 do harm. An action skill build with only 3 do harm is somewhat unheard of, but if you pay attention to the action skills we're using, our uptime is a little bit sketchy. So I didn't lean hard into do harm. And now red tree. What's happening here is just stuff to like mimic a gun build. You always have a backup plan when you have an Amara action skill build. So that's where we are. We have Indiscriminate for second wins and stuff with the Blade Fury, and just Tempest, because it's free elemental damage. But the main reason we're speccing so far into red tree is sustainment. Fist over matter just comes with it, with that fact, and it's just a really fun action skill to use with this build, and it worked better than I thought, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. Now illuminated fist is another big one, because since we're using the ball, we want to get a ton of damage into that ball, just punch things, you know what I mean. And also the 1 point in wildfire, because we're primarily using a rad hex and we want to get those red explosions everywhere, and also anima because that gets double dipped by wildfire dots. Infusion, this is mostly for the face puncher, but also some guns. If you remember what I mentioned. Green tree, just Blight Tiger, I'm sorry, but we didn't really get that much green tree. And purple tree. We're not taking Unweave the Rainbow because we don't need this damage. It's completely pointless. But we do have Combo Breaker for the odd face puncher kill to just instantly reset our cooldown. Heavy Rain for splash, no mistakes in nature, melee damage that's feeding into our ball. We don't need that much, but it's just free to move down the tree. Burn both ends though. You do get shot a lot on this build, and unlike, might say, Castnado, which is U-bad and lacks survival, this is a huge boost to our damage, and it's what we want. We want to be getting shot, unless we're using like a mana well, which I will explain. Funny little choice is Ant-Man. Normally you don't ever pick up this skill because you have action skills that end quickly. This is an exception. Due to our lack of do harm uptime, Ant-Man is way bigger because it's just always on. 27% more ball damage and fist over matter is going to be gigantic, and it's also going to feed into our body and mind. Only 2 points. You can probably move the capstone into 1 more point, but we don't really need it. Body and mind is going to do enough damage because this is the terror build, so terror is just going to be always on. And clear the mind, like I said, helps us just mix our elements a little bit more so we don't lose out on damage. It's not necessarily a damage gain, it just prevents loss of damage. Now to talk about the gear, you'll notice some familiar faces. Guardian Angel, Face Puncher. If you've paid any attention to a lot of Amara action skill builds, these will be no surprise. But I do want to emphasize the anoints. We're going to be using Terror. So, Terror Cryo on these two more so than any other anoint, because our grenade is going to be the terror damage. Shield is very open, and I'd like to talk about that more. But Face Puncher for body and mind, a little bit of terror gen, similar story, Terror Cryo. This slot is whatever. You can use Free Radical for second winds, a Blade Fury sometimes over a Face Puncher if you want just more raw damage for your second winds and to kind of fill a hybrid wall. Zchev's Eruption for debuffing. Dark Army. If you want to use Light Fantastic, I would recommend using a Dark Army with the Orc damage anoint. That's gonna just let Light Fantastic do all your work. Otherwise, just stuff for second winds. We're not really worried about shooting too much. It's just these three doing the heavy lifting. For your class mod, you want Splash Radius. Splash Radius is the #1 passive that we need for this build. And for the artifact, similar story. You'll notice the area effect damage, the splash damage is nice, but with how much bonus elements we're getting on a lot of times, you don't really need it, but you want the Splash Radius, because that's going to help with your slams. For Groundbreaker, it's going to help the ball. And also Spark Plug. Like literally any Spark Plug with AoE for the radius is what you want, but Spark Plug Static Charge is going to make our Splug damage and the Psycho Stabber it's going to build up the ball damage faster, so you don't have to hit it as many times. So this is the ideal artifact that you want. Otherwise, Spark Plug, AoE, you're good. Now Phase Zerker, similar story. Action skill damage passive is passive. That's the big thing I want to break down. That's what I want to emphasize. It's passive. It's not do harm. We don't have good do harm uptime, so action skill damage is just going to be gigantic. Now for our grenades, these are just filler. You don't need these as much as, say, like you can pass a light speed. You can get a light speed in with the big boom blaster, but most of the time, Hex. Hex is gonna get radiation everywhere, but Shooting Star also procs on any damage. You see how it mentions little orbs that are fly towards the enemy? It does proc on any damage, so if you throw a Hex, it's just gonna start shooting these all over the place. It's gonna kill everything. And then it's gonna explode them, and you have a build that pretty much you don't need any gear for this really at all. Like, as long as you have any Spark Plug, Psycho Stabber, and the ball, you're good. And now for our shields. I don't know who pinged me. Shut up, die. But the Manuel is one of my favorites. Like I mentioned, we're not going to be using a Revolter for the similar reason as Do Harm. Our uptime is just not that great unless you have like a low level one. That works too, and I'm sure it'll work great. But our Mana Well lets us have the melee, this anoint. You can have literally any shield with the Terror Gen anoint. I don't care what you do, just literally any shield. But the Mana Well is going to help us because we're slamming anyway. So we're getting 100% shock bonus element and quite a bit of damage reduction is 90%, not 70%. We're taking 1/10 of the damage. And it's just pretty much always on, especially if you have recharge perks like I do. And that's one of our main shields, but some other shields I really like are the Faulty Star. This helps synergize with Burn Both Ends, because you get shot, and whoever shot you is going to just get nuked. Maybe not necessarily killed instantly, but they're going to take a lot of damage. And the Revolter, you can see I have that annoying, and with Guardian rank, that makes it just so much easier to use. And also the Messy Breakup. Since this is unbroken, and you're getting shot all the time, this is going to be great. It's going to proc your Shooting Star, it's going to shoot the enemies, do a ton of damage, very good shield. And then the Big Boom Blaster. If you want to turn this into a grenade build and have grenade passives, there you go. Just get the Big Boom Blaster and you're going to get shot a ton. This is going to be great. And it also helps with your Hex, so you can throw out more Hexes in case you just want that. It's like, this is like a half-baked grenade build. And then a Beskar, I just have this because I can. I would like to mention that if you're playing without Guardian rank, you're kind of fucked. Get fucked. Turn on Guardian rank. This build does involve a lot of Groundbreaker, and come on, a Slam is just obvious. This should be a default in the game, but it's not, so play with Guardian rank with this build. Because slams are kind of just very important. And for Mayhem mode, I don't really give a shit. We can totally use more than OK Boomer. Ignore that I don't have a very hard modifier. But you don't need the grenade regen really at all, because again, we only need to throw 1 or 2 grenades and they'll cover the whole battlefield. And we're not really worried about what they do after that. Just they do something. So just leave it on Mayhem 11. If you want to turn this into a grenade build, please do. I love grenade builds. And you should too. Besides that, it doesn't really need anything else. I just need to show you the gameplay loop. And that'll be right now. Okay, here we are before crystals. And the first thing I'd like to do is just get a slam in, and that's going to build up my turret. You can't see it because I have a mod for that, but it's there. And then just smack the ball with the Psycho Stabber to get the melee damage in. And then after that, you just kind of throw a few hexes or explosions, and you kind of see things die. Because the ball is going to build up a lot of Groundbreaker. And the Splugs just do a lot of damage on top of constantly hitting enemies for the ball. And you can use your Face Puncher, Body Mine, or just keep slamming. I don't really care, as long as you just do alright. And you can see the Novas going off every so often, and that's from the Faulty Star, one of the shields that I mentioned that you can use. Okay, so dealing with something like the crystals, what you could do is just literally just leave it right here. And they're gonna run into the crystals and die. Like, you don't have to do anything. Another thing I'd like to actually show is maybe some Fist Over Matter, actually. If I swap to Fist Over Matter, you can see it's actually gonna do really solid. Just let it do its thing. Currently, our cooldown is cooling down. Okay, there we go. It kills the entire area. So if we were able to slam the enemies, we would see just a giant Groundbreaker. And you can do it again. Look, it builds up a lot of Expedite as long as you don't go down. It's just denying that entire area. You can see we don't have much do harm, which is why I emphasize certain passives and skills. I want to show you how to just deal with the balls. You can basically AFK. Get some hexes in to piss them off, and then let them just... Yeah, they just kind of walk towards you and die. And Splug should take care of the rest. Yeah. Be smooth. Easy. Easy, man.